Okay, it is 1 o'clock, almost. So we'll just give just a little more time here. We're really very happy that you've all chosen to join us this afternoon.
Very much so.
Okay, Jenny, going to turn it over to you. If you don't know, you're here at Growing in Faith wherever you are. So if this is not the webinar you wanted to be joining, try again. And we hope it is the webinar you want. Jenny, it's yours.
All right, I was just thinking I wanted to turn on the lights in the room behind me, so I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. So yes, welcome to Growing in Faith wherever you are. Boxes, bundles, or books, which is right for you. And welcome to the Resource Library. I am here in the library in North Newton, Kansas at the Western District Conference offices. And although the library is physically closed right now because of COVID concerns, we are absolutely circulating materials, getting things into people's hands. So if there's anything I can do for you, I want to help connect you with resources. As Kathy mentioned, my name is Jenny Wintermuth. I am the director of the Resource Library here, and December 1 will mark 5 years that I have been here in the library, so that's exciting. I grew up in Wichita, a member of the Hope Mennonite congregation. My parents are charter members there. So Western District Conference and our congregations have been an important part of my life for my entire life. I'm a graduate of Heston College and Bethel College and Emporia State University, where I got my master's in library science. At Bethel, I double majored in elementary education and Bible and religion. And my work here at the Resource Library gives me the opportunity to really combine those two interests, those two loves, in terms of looking at the ways that we acquire and grow in our faith, and just that whole intersection of education and learning and growing, and that essential part of being a follower of Christ, specifically in the Anabaptist Mennonite tradition. My personal interest here in the library, when I sort of learned about and found out about the Resource Library, and then director Marlene Bogard, I sort of decided around middle school age that someday I'd love to grow up and be Marlene. I love reading and sharing literature, and was so honored to be hired to continue on some of the pieces of the work that she did here at Western District. When she moved on to new and different ministry opportunities. So I am all about connecting people, whether that's individuals or small groups or congregations, all about connecting individuals with resources to help them grow in faith, whether that's a DVD or a Bible study or a book. I am just excited whenever I can find something to meet a need. In the webinar today, I am planning to tell you just a little bit about the library itself, and then talk about those different things that were in the title, the boxes, bundles, and books, kind of what we have here, how I could help you, and talk then a little bit more about what I do, show you the library webpage, which has a lot of really important information. Definitely have time for questions, and I will try to stop and make sure at different points there is time for questions, but for sure at the end there will be a longer period of time. And the last thing is, if you do not have a library card and you would like to start using the library now, this is a great time to go ahead and get yourself signed up for a library card. It just takes getting a couple of pieces of information from you. And my husband has graciously agreed to help with that. So Peter in the red shirt, if you want to wave there, his name says new library card. If you would just chat with him anytime during this webinar, he will get you set up with a library card, so you can start logging on to your account and reserving things online if you would like to. If you have not used Zoom before, down at the bottom, there should be a menu bar across the bottom of your screen. And one of those features is chat. And if you click on that, then in the chat window at the bottom, there should be a place where you're selecting if you're chatting with all participants, or you can choose the name new library card from the list of participants, excuse me. And then you will get to chat just with him to get that set up. So, and I see it looks like someone is already interested in doing that. So Peter will be taking care of that throughout the webinar if you're interested. Obviously, if you decide at some point in the future you would like to get a library card and don't today, that is absolutely an option at any time. Just get in touch with me and we'll talk more about how to get in touch with me later. So are there any questions before we dive into my agenda? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. And please excuse me while I reach over the counter. This is the best way to set up the computer, so I'm trying to make sure I can see all of you a little easier. All right, so generally, what is the resource library? How did it begin? We are actually the largest and oldest resource library connected with a Mennonite organization in the US. We started in 1936 as a part of the Education Committee of Western District Conference. And at that time, all of our materials were in the German language. That was the language that the conference operated in, our congregations worshiped in for the most part. And so it is very interesting. We no longer have any German materials in the collection, but we are continually adding to our Spanish language materials and our bilingual materials, Spanish, English. And we do have the Confession of Faith in the Chin language as well. So there are a few changes that have happened over the years, obviously, in terms of the makeup of the collection. We did used to be housed on the Bethel College campus in the basement of what is now the Mennonite Library and Archives, but have now been over here at the 2500 Place building with the rest of the Western District Conference offices. We have over 12,500 resources here. So this is a sizable collection with resources for all ages, both DVD and print. And I am looking at, and when possible, adding some digital options as well. So expect that to expand in the coming years. So a couple of the different things I wanted to talk about are a couple of our different programs. First is the Box of Books program. And the Box of Books program is something that's been going on for a very long time. During World War II, many Mennonite young men chose to enter civilian public service rather than the armed services. And as they were located across the United States in these CPS camps, the resource library actually sent boxes of books, resources from the library for those young men to continue in growing in their faith, to have something to do in their off hours during their time at the CPS camps. So there's a long tradition of this program. Right now, an individual congregation, and they're there for 2 months. So then individuals can check out from their own congregation rather than having to come to or request materials directly from the library itself. And some local congregations, they stop by and pick up their box. Others at a distance, we mail it to them. And I want to say for anyone, if you cannot make it to the offices to pick things up, we are so blessed to have the North Newton Post Office directly next door to us. And so we mail things to any individual or congregation or small group within our conference. And we are very lucky to have something called library rate. So I have packed up here a sample box of the 25 items. So this is how big the box is that we typically use. And a box like this costs between $9 and $12 to mail one way to a congregation. So if you think, and we do ask whoever's receiving the materials to pay postage both ways. So at the most, you're talking $25 for 25 resources. So it's certainly a much more economical way than for you to buy the materials yourself. And this is a way that church libraries can sort of refresh their collection with new materials coming in. It's a way that if your congregation is studying creation care or race relations or a number of different popular topics, immigration, I can pack up a box with materials just focused on a specific subject or topic or sermon series, or it can be a variety of things. If you want to sign up for this program, Then I have sort of an information sheet where I get a little bit of information from you in terms of demographics of your congregation. Do you have a lot of children or mostly older folks, and what type of resource you want? So I work very hard with each individual congregation to make sure it meets whatever needs you might have. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I know my head is cut off, hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. I want to talk a little bit about the kinds of materials we have. And so I have 25 things in this box, but I wanted to make sure I talk about specifically some of the curriculum and Bible study guides that we have, because we have a number of specific just curriculum type resources. So this is a women's study, a study on missional potential. So that is one fantastic area or option in terms of resources. And then we do have quite a sizable DVD collection with DVDs and study guides that are really great for small groups, Sunday schools. Some congregations use these for their midweek program with their adults. So a lot of different options there. And I want to take a minute to just say as well that within our conference, we do have sort of a wide range of theological perspectives still within and underneath our Anabaptist Mennonite understanding. And so anytime that you are considering using a resource, I encourage people to preview those ahead of time just to make sure that they are appropriate for your congregation. You hopefully will not run across things that are counter to our Anabaptist Mennonite understanding of faith, but I just want to highlight that we do have a range of sort of understandings within that. So with that being said, I want to talk about our box of books here. So these 25 resources I've packed thinking of a hypothetical congregation that has people across the age ranges and interested in just sort of a general box. So we have board books for our youngest readers, Psalms of Praise. Things like this even work well for some children's stories during worship, depending on the age of the children that you have. Jesus Loves Me, just some of the favorite board books. I have a 3-year-old, and so we've just sort of, she still enjoys some board books, but I'm aware of some really good things specifically for her age group right now. We have curriculum for children and youth. This is a preschool activities guide. So whether you have preschoolers that are in a children's church during worship, or if you have preschoolers that aren't getting faith formation right now because you're not meeting in person, you could do some resourcing for families there. We have wonderful picture books with both biblical themes and social justice things, like what does it mean to be global, expanding children's worlds there. Do you want a friend? About Jesus, how Jesus is the best friend we could have. 9 Fruits Alive, talking about the fruits of the Spirit. I'm going to continue with some of the children's books here. 365 Ways to Live Green for kids, and 100 Extraordinary Stories for Courageous Girls, Unforgettable Tales of Women of Faith. We've got Bible study and exploration guides for juniors. Fiction books of all kinds, from biblical fiction to contemporary fiction to historical fiction for adults. Great ways to explore various aspects of faith. And you'll notice some books in our library have a little pink label on the spine. That means that within the book there are some kind of discussion questions. And so this is true for both fiction and nonfiction. We tried to label what would make good group books for juniors, children as well. We have a very small but growing young adult section. This is an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States for young people. And so both fiction and nonfiction for young adults is one area that I have pulled out of the main collection and am adding to. And then in adult fiction, we of course try to make sure that we have all of the recent titles from Herald Press so that those are available for you through Minnow Media. We have biographies of all kinds. This one, A Bruised Reed, is from a local author in Bueller, talking about African orphans. Biographies, like I said, of interest of people who have struggled in their faith, and how they show their faith on a daily basis. We have books dealing with tough topics, the meaning facing the church's complicity in sexual abuse and misconduct. We've just got a little bit of everything. If it's how our faith and our daily life intersect, the issues we face on a daily basis. Missio Dei booklets from Mennonite Mission Network, which are a great small a read and discussion questions that go along with that. What else do I have in here? Biography of Mary Kay Oyer, Anabaptist Witness, which is a publication. This particular one is on mission and migration, all sort of focused around missional themes. Love in a Time of Fear, Revive Us Again, Vision and Action in Moral Organizing, Sleuthing the Bible, Clues that Unlock the Mystery of the Text. So these are sort of the types of books, resources that I might pack in a box of books. Of course, in the collection, we also have all kinds of worship resources, commentaries and prayers and litanies, different things to help plan worship, as well as looking at your own worship, personal worship. There are resources that have to do with prayer and other spiritual disciplines. One of the areas I've been looking at a lot lately has to do with parenting and how do you pass on your faith to your children. Just all kinds of different topics, pretty much whatever you could think about, whatever aspect of faith that you are interested in exploring, I can find something. Or if that is a gap in our collection, that's something I want to add. So that's kind of about box of books. I want to pause here again if anyone has specific questions right now.
I have a question. What's the normal process for getting a library card if you're not on in a workshop?
Okay. Normally, then it's pretty much just calling here to the Western District Conference offices. And I'll go ahead and say that number now is 316-283-6300. Or you can also just email me, and I will show you also on the webpage where this contact information is if you forget it or don't have it written down. But my email here at the library is crlib, for Conference Resource Library, at menowdc.org. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy has typed in the comments the email address so you can visually see it there. And I will mention too, my position here is only quarter time, 10 hours a week. So if there are times that you call the office and I am not here, I will get back to you as soon as possible. The email is typically a faster way to get a hold of me because I do try to keep an eye on that when I am not at the library. And I see a question, how is the library funded? Also a great question. We are funded through the Western District Conference budget. So when you give to Western District Conference, then a portion of that is the library funding, both my salary and for materials and resources. So we are supported by the congregations and the people of Western District Conference who give to the conference. So that was a good question, thank you. Both of those about contact and funding. Are there other questions anyone has?
Are you going to talk about Overdrive or Libby or Cloud Library at all? Are you involved in that?
Unfortunately, we do not have the resources to pay for some of those services. I will tell you what we do have access to, but unfortunately not some of those larger ones that the public libraries typically do. Since all of our funding is private through Western District, there are just some things we can't pay for because some of those digital services also ask how many borrowers or how many people do you have in your congregation or group. And so often then we have to try to determine and work with them. Do they want to know how many people are eligible to have a library card? How many people have a library card? So that is a bit tricky there, but we're trying to figure out the best uses to be effective with the funding we have. And unfortunately, audiobooks, we have an audio Bible, but that is the only audio option at this point. Dan also asked that question. Any others before we go on? I heard something from in the room here. Was that a statement or a question? Sorry, Peter is asking. Okay, yes. So two things I think came across the chat there. A summer story hour, yes. Hopefully you saw the publicity for this summer. If not, I would love to hear from you, because that means we need to do something different. This coming week is our last week for our summer story hour. This year we were entirely virtually online for story hour because of COVID and the library being closed. And we had a number of participants from a distance this year, which was exciting. Typically that tends to be folks from the central Kansas area who can drive in. But that's a summer story hour for ages 3 to 8. And we have a volunteer story hour leader who graciously gives time for that. So we are thankful that we were able to do that this summer in a little bit of a different way, and hope to be back in person. And then excuse me while I reach over my books here. There was another question. Yes. So the other question was, if we have a community friend who is not a part of the Western District congregation, can that person get a library card? And the answer is yes. Since we are funded through Western District congregations and individuals, we do ask for those who are outside of Western District Conference to pay a fee to have a library membership, since we're a private library. And that right now is $25 for a household for a year. So it's a fairly small fee if people are using the library. And that would be the same for anyone who is a member of a Mennonite congregation that's not Western District. There are folks in other area conferences who have memberships to the library. There are local friends who have a membership. So absolutely, yes, this is a resource that we want to share with others. Any other questions? And all right, large print editions. Of course, that question would come up, which is from my father. Large print, we have a small number of large print books, but there's not a large number of those. So it depends on what you're looking for, whether I can help meet that need or not. There's another question about interlibrary loans. And unfortunately, since we're a private library, we are not connected to interlibrary loan networks. So that is not something at this point we have available. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the next thing, which is the book bundles for group study. And if you have other questions, feel free to type those in the chat, or we will have another break in just a second for questions. So the book bundle for group study program just launched in March. So, you know, the same time COVID was starting to happen, things were starting to shut down, but we have been pleasantly surprised at the use that we've already had. I think at last count, there had been 6 congregations or groups within congregations who had already taken advantage of this program. And so we are still, you know, new, this is new and exciting, and we're trying to get the word out. So basically, this means we have multiple copies of the same title so that your small group, Sunday school class, whatever group you might have, can all read the same title and discuss it together. And this is a wonderful option especially if you are not meeting in person. You can meet over Zoom or some other way, whether you're meeting socially distanced at a park or, you know, lots of different options to still read and talk about the same title. So this is one, Trouble I've Seen by Drew Hart. I have 16 copies of this. This book, now Drew Hart has a new one coming out in September, but this is one that really, the subtitle is Changing the Way the Church Views Racism. So a very timely topic. This is a book that my family book club is reading and discussing right now. I know one of our churches has a women's Bible study group that has a much larger group participating than they typically have for their women's Bible study because they're discussing this book. So that's one title. And with all of these, anyone from any of our congregations can express interest in a bundle. We talk about how many copies you need, about how long you might need to work through the book. We know that groups that may be meeting once a week take longer to get through some books than others. So right now, all of the books that we have in this program are Herald Press titles, which is Minnow Media. So we know that we can feel pretty confident in terms of the theology that's in there. And I have read a number of these, not all of them yet. But I did speak with someone earlier today who had suggested some other titles for this program that I'm looking into as well. And this is probably a good time for me to say too, if you are interested in particular resources or types of resources or topics, please let me know. If you or your congregation is interested, there's probably another congregation or more in our conference that are also interested in some of those same topics and issues. So I want to know how the collection can meet your needs. So I wanted to talk about just a few other titles that we do have available right now in this program, so that if you are interested in getting a book bundle, you kind of know what's out there. This list is also on the library webpage, so if you're ever curious about what's in the program, that's another place to look. We have The God Who Sees, Immigrants, the Bible, and the Journey to Belong by Karen Gonzalez. Fire by Night, Finding God in the Pages of the Old Testament by Melissa Fleur-Bixler, and that one has been studied by a number of congregations. And then The Bible Unwrapped, Making Sense of Scripture Today by Megan Larissa Good. Within the last year, Mennonite Church USA kind of promoted this as a common read across the denomination. So I know a lot of groups and churches have studied this, but there are a lot who have not yet. And that, personally, I could talk about that one for a long time because I really appreciated that. There's a series called The Jesus Way, Small Books of Radical Faith. And we have 4 titles from that collection. What is the Trinity and why does it matter? Why do we suffer and where is God when we do? What is the Bible and how do we understand it? And then the 4th one, which is out in a congregation right now, is Why Did Jesus Have to Die? So great, and those are much shorter. If you have a group that doesn't like to read as much, these are a great way to start reading and discussing together if one of the more lengthy ones is more intimidating. Collateral Damage, Changing the Conversation About Firearms and Faith. Invited, The Power of Hospitality in an Age of Loneliness. Speak Your Peace, What the Bible Says About Loving Our Enemies. Addiction Nation, What the Opioid Crisis Reveals About Us. So you can see there's a lot of topics and issues that we see in the news a lot. This is God's Table, Finding Church Beyond the Walls, which is one that I particularly would like to read right now in a time when we are not meeting inside the walls. And then Raising Disciples, How to Make Faith Matter for Our Kids by Natalie Frisk. So those are a very fast kind of overview of the titles that we have right now. And I am excited about this program. This program is funded by some money left over from the Vision 2012 initiative. If you remember that, some years ago, a part of that push was to provide materials for congregations to really help them engage with current issues and, you know, to have resources in their hands. And so in the past, the resource library has not had multiple copies. of anything except maybe 2 copies of the Confession of Faith or some of those other very heavily used resources. So this idea of having multiple books is something new, and obviously takes a good chunk of funding to get started. So I was very grateful that there was some money left over from Vision 2012, that the Resource Commission said, yes, we believe that this would be a good thing for our conference, and let's fund this program. And part of my hope in this program is that if there are some of these titles that other congregations are studying, maybe if they're new titles that we don't have in the program yet, if they're willing or interested in donating those books when they're done studying it so that other congregations can study those same things, that this might be a way of sharing some of our resources in that way as well. So I do want to stop there for a minute and ask, are there any questions about the book bundle for group study program or anything else library related? I'm not hearing anyone jumping in. So if you'll bear with me one more time, I'm going to move my computer one last time. And I am back now at my desk. And I did want to point out behind me here in this open doorway, you can see some file cabinets. And back there is what is called the music library. And those file cabinets are filled full of choir anthems. Now, we are not meeting in person and really not having choirs singing right now because of COVID-19. But we hope there will be a time in the not too distant future when that becomes a part of our worship again. And while this is located in the library, we have a wonderful volunteer who cares for the music library. And I just wanted to make sure people know that that is a part of the resources that are here at Western District. If you have a choir or would like a choir in your congregation, this is a good option in terms of not having to buy the music to sing, but rather to borrow and then return when you're done. So if you have questions about that as well, I can do my best to answer those or connect you with someone who can answer your questions about that. So I wanted to make sure that that was mentioned. I mentioned earlier that right now the library is physically closed to visitors, but I definitely want to get people connected with what they need. And so wanting to let you know there are a variety of ways to do that. We mentioned, and Kathy put in the chat for us, the phone number here for Western District and my email address. The email address is usually the fastest way to get a response from me unless you happen to call when I'm here. And so those are some options. I will also show you in just a little bit how to log on to our online catalog. You can search the online catalog at any time. And if you have a library card, you can log on and renew things directly in the catalog. That immediately shoots me an email saying that someone has reserved something. And so I can be pretty responsive to those requests as well. Also, if you're one of those people that likes to browse, I definitely want to make that happen. Our local bookstore here in town, when they were closed for COVID, did some really awesome stuff where you could video chat with someone in the library, and I'm saying, yes, let's do that. If you want to see into the library, we can set up a time where we can FaceTime or Zoom, and I can take my mobile device around and show you bookshelves and pull things off that you want to get a closer look at. There are a lot of ways that technology can really help us right now, and I am really, really interested in making sure that you can see what's here, and if you want something or need something, that we can make that happen. So I just wanted to, kind of put that out there and let you know, hey, these are some things we can do. So what do I do? My main role is continuing to listen and to be responsive to what needs are out there and connect people with the resources they need. For instance, someone looking for a DVD for a midweek program or a picture book to read for children's time, something to supplement your children's or adults' curriculum, topics for your family. If your child or grandchild is asking questions about what is prayer or how big is God, I am all about finding something to help you facilitate those conversations. Obviously, sermon preparation or personal Bible study, I'm very excited about helping you find the resources you need there. Just so many different opportunities and ways I can help support you or your congregation's growth in faith. I want to take a second to look at the library webpage. So we're going to see if I can get this. Hopefully you all can see. I just have a new window open. The library webpage is, you go to the Western District Conference website, so wdc.org/library. You can tell I've been there before. So this right now is what the library webpage looks like, and I've heard some murmurings of updating the website and things, but for now, this is what it looks like. You'll know you're in the right place. At the very top is this link we'll go to in a minute, the online library catalog. And this is the fastest and easiest way to get there if you don't have it bookmarked, because it's a lot easier to remember and type in minnowwdc.org/library than the whole web address for the actual online catalog. If you have not been physically here inside the resource library, there's a short video here that I prepared for annual assembly. It's 3 minutes long, so it won't take much of your time. If you're interested in taking a look inside, if we have time here in a little bit, I will also take a mobile device around so you can get a sense of what's here. Again, there's some of the information about how to get in contact with me here. If you are in the local area and request something, we have a cart right inside the front doors of the Western District offices where you can just pick up those materials Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And like I said, if you're at a distance, post office is right next door and we can get things to you. Right now, we have a couple of digital services you can see listed here. The Paraclete video streaming service is not an Anabaptist Mennonite perspective, but there are still some wonderful resources there on grief, faith formation, some other social issues. So you're more than welcome to check those out and see if they work for you or your group. The login information for that, you will have to let me know you want that, and then I'll share it with you. And that we discovered does not work terribly well in, I believe it's the Chrome browser. We've been having some issues with certain browsers, but when we switch to a different web browser, then we can get in. So just a note there, if you're having trouble, let me know and we'll work with that. Tumble Books are just available through the end of the month, and then I will see what our access is. These books are not specifically faith-focused, but are for children of all ages, and you can see there some of the different types of books that are offered. Is just one more resource we wanted to let you know about and see what might be useful there. This one is the Spanish Digital Anabaptist Online Library, which is a fantastic Spanish resource. A number of different organizations have worked together to make those materials available. So if you are looking for Spanish language materials or know someone who is, that's a great option. And that's a good time for me to stop because I have completely forgotten to mention our Texas branch of the Resource Library, which is an important thing to mention. So in Texas, we do have a number of resources for sort of the southern part of our conference, and those materials are all Spanish language materials except for a few curriculums, and are geared specifically towards leaders, whether that be pastors, church planters, or lay leaders of a variety of types. And our administrative assistant for Texas, Sandra Martinez, she's wonderful. She facilitates the checkout with that. We do have a copy of all the materials that are in the Texas branch library. We have a copy of all of those here in North Newton as well. But we thought it was very important in terms of accessibility to have those resources also available to our Texas and just southern part of our conference leaders. So if you have questions about that, you can let me know and I can get you in touch with Sandra, or whatever questions I may be able to answer some of them as well. So I did want to mention that that is also a part of the library, and we are excited about being able to serve people in those two locations. Going back here to the website, again, there's some information about Summer Story Hour, which ends this coming week is our last session, as well as the summer reading programs that we had going on this summer. And we will have those again next summer, so you can be looking for information about that. A few notes, information specifically about the library and things, how they work here. Here's what I mentioned about the book bundles for group study and the list of those titles so that you can see what is a part of that program, and let me know if you are interested in borrowing something or if you have suggestions to add to that program. There's a link. This goes directly to our online catalog. A number of people were asking specifically about creation care resources. So there's a link to that. Some information about videos, which I should change really to say DVDs because that's what we're talking about at this point. The program I talked about at first with the box, which is the 25 resources for 2 months. That's the Box of Books program here. And there's information as well as the profile sheet to sign up that helps me pull materials for those books. And then there's just a couple of other things here, discussion guides for some of the DVDs we have and that kind of thing. So I'm going back up top here to where the online library catalog is. And before we go to the catalog, I want to stop for a minute and just say, are there any questions? And if there's something in the chat, someone will have to tell me because I'm not sure that shows up while I'm screen sharing.
You answered the last question that I've seen, Jenny, and I think somebody's just coming on with their video.
I did have a question about like when we're sending things back to you or even receiving things from you, what's the requested protocol to ensure safety as the resources are kind of going through the ethers, especially when we send them back to you? Do you want them wiped down with a specific substance that is most most helpful to the books without sort of spraying them down might not be the thing to do, but maybe wiping them down would be good, or what's helpful, and what protocols do we need to know about to keep everybody safe?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. At this point, I would say I would not worry too much about sending it because once it arrives here at Western District, I'm going to leave it sit for a number of days before I even open it. And allow things to have a chance to die. Then once I have opened it and checked it in, then it will be quarantined for another 3 days before it goes out to anyone else. And so that is just sort of our procedure is the same basically as what the public library is doing here, and others that I've spoken with is really just giving it that time to sit and allowing things to die. So if you want to wipe it down with like a Lysol wipe or something like that, you are more than welcome to. But we feel pretty confident that the amount of time that we are letting it sit will also be long enough that it won't be a hazard then.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Were there any others? It looked like someone else was unmuting themselves. Okay. We will go ahead and take a quick peek here at the online catalog. This is what it looks like right now. Often I get tired of looking at whatever picture or colors are up here and I will change it, but the layout will be the same. I wanted to point out here, in the last year, the materials that have been checked out have been worth over $25,000. So if you think about, again, this is a great use of our money to pool our resources here as a conference and to borrow rather than buy these materials. So I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out right here, this Your Library app. Looking here for this app is, I think, a very helpful thing. From that app, you can log in with your library card information, and then you can reserve things from the app, check to see if we have it. I know often I'll hear about a great children's book and I think, oh, that would be good for this use, or oh, that would be really good for the thing I'm working on for Tabor Mennonite. And so I can just whip out my phone and check right away just from the app to see if it's a resource that we have in the library already or not. So if you tend to use your phone or another mobile device, that's a great way to immediately, quickly access the library catalog. And like I said, excuse me, you can renew things, you can reserve things, you can see what you have checked out, you can check due dates directly in that app, which to me is a really fast, easy way to do it. A couple of other things to be aware of here on the website. Of course, there's the search box. There's also a tab right here called Search that gives you some different options, different ways to search the library collection to see what might be helpful. One of those is the visual search, which is this tab here, which I find sort of interesting. If I'm just looking at what's new, I can go here to recent additions, and you can see the 54 most recently added to the collection. You can see a number of commentaries here. Someone donated a second copy, so now we have a second copy of a number of our commentaries in the Believers Church Bible Commentary series. You can see what else is new. And you'll note that a number of these say not active. That means that I have added it to the collection, but it's still being processed. So I'm still printing the spine labels and putting in the date due slips and all of that. So you can still go in and reserve these, and I'll get a little note saying someone is ready and waiting for that title. So this is just a great way to see, you know, what's new, what's being added, to browse that way. Let me go back up to the top here. There's a couple of other tabs here. The links has some links to other outside organizations and places to look at faith formation resources. And I will admit that has not been updated recently, but is on my list to do. Then this tab that says List, I find to be a fairly helpful place. Hopefully you will as well. And these are a variety of different topics that either people have asked or are asking frequently for those types of resources, or you know, otherwise have some importance. So you can see I haven't taken this one off yet. Last year's Menno Media, Herald Press, VBS had a book list, and so I had a list here showing which books we had in the collection. Right now, one of the frequently requested subjects is racism and white privilege education. So I have a couple of resource lists here for kids and for adults in terms of what we have in the collection. Last year, we looked at the Western District mission statement, which you heard our conference minister, Heidi Regier-Kreiter, talk about in the delegate session this morning, and some books that help you explore sort of the different aspects of that mission statement. A lot of other interesting lists here on topics that come up quite a bit. And I have tried to include dates of when I last updated them. So you can see, I mean, we have things that I haven't updated in a couple of years to things like Friends, and these are mostly children's books on Friends that I updated earlier this March because either we got a new book on that topic or somebody asked for specifics, and so then I updated that. So this is one good place to go if you're looking for specific topics that you think might be something that others have asked about, a fairly common topic. Then I just wanted to briefly talk about, someone asked if we are not requesting a library card during this webinar, but interested in one later. Back here on the Home tab of the online catalog, there is a box here that says library card registration, and you can click this register button right here, and then it will ask you the same information that you need to share to get that library card, and you can get it going right there. I wanted to briefly show logging on here. Right now I'm not logged on, and I'm going to put in, since it's saved, my own library card number. And when you get a library card, we will tell you what your username or barcode is, as well as what your password is, so that you can log on. And then it's going to tell me about my items. So right here it says that I have one item ready for pickup. This is an item that as I was playing around with things to make sure that I was showing you the easiest way to do things. I put a book on reserve the other day, and then it shows up here under the waiting for pickup. It also shows me, goodness gracious, I have 33 items checked out right now, which is not unusual for me. Looks like a lot of these are ones I took home to preview to see if they were outdated or not. But I can easily see right here what I have checked out, when they are due, and if I would want to renew them, I can easily check the box and then scroll to the end and renew those. So it is a really great way to manage what you have checked out just by logging into the catalog here. If I wanted to search for a book on prayer, so I just went up to the search box and typed in prayer, and I want to reserve one of these. This one looks intriguing, the 30-Day Praise Challenge for Parents. If that's the one I wanted to reserve, anything read in the online catalog is a hyperlink that will take you somewhere else. So I can look specifically at the book to see more information about the book, little image of what the card catalog would have looked like in the old cards, and a real card catalog. Snapshot gives me more of a complete sort of summary information about the book. And then holdings will just tell me, oh, this one was donated by our local bookstore. But will tell me, you know, if the book is in, what the call number is, that sort of information if I want. But if I have logged in, all I have to do is click this button right here, Quick Reserve. And then it'll tell me that the item is reserved successfully. And in just a couple of seconds, I will get an email on my phone saying that someone has reserved a book online. So when you reserve something online, I know within a couple of minutes about that. And then I'll let you know when it is ready for pickup. So it's a wonderful system that I think works very well. If you are searching in the online catalog and you find something you want and you click that reserve button, if you're not logged in, at that point, it'll just prompt you to log in. And as soon as you log in, then it reserves the item. So, and I'm happy to go over that again at any time with anyone who's having problems with the website, because there are sometimes we have trouble logging on, or I just need to reset your password, different things like that. So I think that is everything I wanted to show you. I know we're getting down to the wire here, but are there any parting questions?
Are you going to continue story time at all because of the COVID-19 situation?
We are not planning to this fall, but that is also something that I have not thought a whole lot about, because it's been typically just in the summer. In the fall, we have not had many people participate, but if we are online, one consideration is it would likely need to be a live story hour as opposed to a recorded, because of copyright issues in terms of recording books. But that is an excellent question that I definitely need to give some more thought to. So thank you, Janice, for that.
It sounds like a fun idea for kids who are stuck at home.
Yes, I will have to say it will need to probably be scaled back, because both my videographer and my story hour leader are both educators who are going back to work.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
But that doesn't mean we couldn't do a version or do something. So yeah, thank you for that suggestion. Any other questions? I do see that we had a question about Spanish resources, and I do think I mentioned, but yes, in the Texas branch, as well as here in Kansas, we have a growing bilingual and Spanish language section. And I will say here in Kansas, we do have a variety of picture books and some junior books in Spanish and bilingual that we do not have in Texas. That is specifically more towards leaders, so we don't have the children's stuff in Texas. So. And thank you, Kathy, for putting the link in there, because already I forgot. There is an assembly questionnaire evaluation for Western District Conference, the entire assembly this weekend. And if If you plan to attend another webinar or other things later this afternoon, feel free to wait to fill that out. But if this is the last thing or only thing that you're participating in, please follow that link in the chat section to fill that out, because that will help us plan for future assemblies and what is helpful, what is not, what topics, or whatever input you might have for us as staff here. So I will say then we are officially done. If you have other questions or if anyone wants to stay on, I will stay on for a little bit. I think this Zoom is used again at 2:15. Is that right, Kathy? So we need to make sure we are off in the next maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And let me know how I can help you.